Marcus Chen's footsteps echoed through the crystalline corridors of the Galactic Council station, each step measured and deliberate despite his racing heart. The diplomatic badge on his chest felt heavier than usual as he made his way toward his office, careful to maintain the composed demeanor expected of Earth's junior diplomatic representative. The late-cycle quiet of the station worked to his advantage. Most species preferred the standard shift, leaving the curved halls nearly empty. Only the soft hum of environmental systems and the occasional maintenance drone broke the silence, perfect for someone who didn't want to be noticed. Inside his office, Marcus activated his secure terminal with trembling fingers. The encrypted transmission he'd intercepted hours earlier still haunted him. Fragments of conversation between Vraxian officials that painted a chilling picture. Their words scrolled across his screen once more. Earth's development curve matches the pattern. Action required before integration. Council votes in 3 cycles. Implement contingency. Previous solution confirmed effective. No survivors. Marcus had spent enough time in diplomatic circles to read between the lines. The Vraxians, with their rigid belief in evolutionary hierarchies, saw Earth as a threat. Their previous solution likely explained the mysterious disappearance of the Centaurian delegation last cycle, another emerging civilization that had vanished on the cusp of council membership. A soft chime from his console interrupted his thoughts. New data flowed across the screen. Ship movements, resource allocations, and coded transmissions. The evidence was circumstantial but damning. He needed to get this to Earth's senior ambassador immediately. The office door slid open with a hydraulic hiss. Marcus spun around, expecting to see the night maintenance crew. Instead, 4 Vraxian guards filled the doorway, their scaled armor gleaming under the office lights. Behind them stood Ambassador Kexri, his primary eyes fixed on Marcus, while his secondary set tracked the data displayed on the screen. Diplomatic Representative Chen, Kexri's translator, produced perfectly modulated standard. How unfortunate to find you accessing restricted channels at this hour. Marcus's hand inched toward the data transfer button. Ambassador, I was just reviewing standard diplomatic protocols. A guard's neural disruptor hummed to life. Your species' capacity for deception is remarkable, Kexri continued, but ultimately futile. The evidence of your espionage is clear. Evidence you planted, Marcus shot back, his finger finding the transfer key. One press and everything would transmit to Earth, just like you planted evidence before eliminating the Centaurians. The ambassador's scales rippled, the Vraxian equivalent of a smile. Accusations without proof, from a proven spy. The Council will be most interested in this breach of diplomatic trust. The neural disruptor fired. Marcus's muscles locked as electricity coursed through his nervous system. He caught a glimpse of his screen as he fell. The transfer had failed. Of course, they would have already isolated his communications. Through the haze of pain, he heard Kexri speaking. Prepare him for transport. The Council will convene immediately to address this security breach. Marcus wanted to laugh despite the situation. The Vraxians were efficient. He'd give them that. They'd caught him gathering evidence of their crimes and would use it to eliminate him legally. Through council channels, Earth would never know the truth. As the guards dragged him to his feet, Marcus met Kexri's gaze. You're afraid, he managed through gritted teeth, afraid of what humanity might become. The ambassador's scales rippled again. No, Representative Chen. We simply maintain order. The strong survive, the weak perish, and upstart species learn their place. Consider your exile a lesson in galactic hierarchy. Marcus felt the sting of an injector against his neck. As darkness crept into his vision, one thought remained clear. They'd chosen exile over elimination. That was their first mistake. Humanity had survived worse odds before. They would survive this too. The landing pod's descent shields glowed cherry red as it punched through Nexus 6's thick atmosphere. Marcus braced himself against the restraints, his diplomatic outfit already soaked with sweat. The Vraxian guard had been clear. This was no temporary exile. The pod contained basic survival supplies, their idea of mercy, or perhaps just another way to prolong his suffering. A bone-jarring impact marked their landing. Steam hissed as cooling systems engaged, and the pod's door slid open with a mechanical groan. The first breath of alien air burned Marcus's lungs, thick with strange spores and the heavy scent of decay. Purple twilight filtered through a canopy of massive trees, their trunks wider than Earth's ancient redwoods. Bioluminescent fungi clung to the bark, casting an eerie glow across the misty undergrowth. Something massive moved in the distance, shaking the ground with each step. Priority 1. Shelter, Marcus muttered, falling back on his military survival training. The council might have stripped him of his rank and position, but they couldn't take away his knowledge or experience. He inventoried his supplies quickly. A basic filtration mask, 3 days of standard rations, a survival knife, and a portable purifier. The pod itself was designed to self-destruct after landing, no calling for help with its systems. Smart. A distant roar echoed through the forest, followed by the sound of splintering trees. Marcus grabbed his supplies and moved. The ground's slight incline suggested higher terrain ahead, and higher ground meant better visibility and defensible positions. The forest floor proved treacherous. What looked like solid ground often concealed deep pockets of decomposing vegetation. Thick vines hung like serpents from the branches, some actually moving with predatory purpose. Marcus learned quickly to spot the signs. Certain patches of luminescent fungi marked stable ground, while others warned of hidden sinkholes. After an hour of careful progress, he found it. A rock face jutting from the forest floor, its surface studded with crystal formations that cast back the purple light. Better yet, several cave openings dotted its base. The closest entrance showed signs of regular use. Scratch marks and worn stone suggested local wildlife used it for shelter. Risky, he whispered, studying the marks, but better than nothing. A rumble of thunder overhead made the decision for him. Dark clouds gathered with surprising speed, and the first drops of rain sizzled where they hit the vegetation. Acid rain. Perfect. Marcus ducked into the cave just as the downpour began in earnest. The entrance chamber was surprisingly deep, with crystal formations providing natural illumination. The air felt cleaner here, filtered through the rock. Most importantly, the cave showed signs of water erosion. There had to be a freshwater source nearby. He spent the next hours securing his position. The knife proved invaluable for cutting vines to create simple alarm systems across the wider sections of the cave entrance. His filtration mask, combined with some of the bioluminescent fungi he'd collected, became an improvised light source. A rhythmic tremor through the rock caught his attention. Something big was moving outside, taking shelter from the rain. Marcus pressed himself against the cave wall, controlling his breathing. The creature's massive shadow fell across the cave entrance, a silhouette of teeth and claws that would haunt his dreams. But it moved on, seeking easier shelter. Marcus released his breath slowly. He'd survived his first few hours on Nexus 6, but the real test was just beginning. The acid rain would last for hours, according to his pod's atmospheric briefing. Time to explore deeper into his new home and see what other surprises this cave system held. As he moved deeper into the cave network, Marcus allowed himself a grim smile. The Vraxians had sent him here to die, expecting him to break against this world's savage rules. But humans had risen from caves before, evolving from prey to apex predators. Perhaps history was about to repeat itself, this time on an alien world. First step, survive, he muttered, marking his path with luminescent fungi. Second step, find a way to expose their secrets. And then, dear Ambassador Kexri, we'll see who learns their place in the galaxy. 3 weeks into his exile, Marcus had learned to read Nexus 6's deadly rhythms. The morning brought acid fog that ate through unprotected flesh. Midday saw the largest predators hunting in the valleys. Evening heralded the bioluminescent bloom that turned the forest into a sea of living light. He moved through the underbrush with practiced care, following a game trail he'd discovered. The modified spear in his hands was crafted from landing pod debris and hardened local wood. His clothes, now reinforced with treated bark fiber, bore the stains and tears of survival. A distant roar shattered the evening calm. Marcus froze, recognizing the sound, one of the six-limbed apex predators that ruled this sector. But something was different. The roar held pain, fear, desperation. "Not your problem," he muttered, adjusting his path to avoid the commotion. He had enough trouble staying alive without investigating predator disputes. Another roar, followed by the unique sound of crystal formations shattering. The fight was moving closer to his cave system. If those creatures established territory there, he'd lose his shelter. Marcus cursed under his breath and changed direction, moving toward the sounds. The ground trembled with heavy impacts. As he crept closer, the forest opened into a clearing of broken crystal formations and trampled vegetation. Three massive shapes moved through the purple twilight. Two adult predators, their iridescent scales reflecting the bioluminescent light, circled a smaller one. The younger creature was backed against a crystal formation, dark fluid dripping from wounds along its flanks. Marcus had seen these creatures hunt before. They moved with terrifying coordination, using their multiple limbs to traverse any terrain. Their primary arms ended in razor claws, while their secondary limbs showed surprising dexterity. This wasn't normal hunting behavior. This was something else. The younger one fought with desperate courage, but exhaustion showed in its movements. Its scales, a deeper blue than the adults, were marred by fresh cuts. As Marcus watched, it attempted to climb the crystal formation, seeking higher ground. The larger predators struck simultaneously, one going for the throat while the other targeted the spine. "Bad move," Marcus whispered, recognizing the killing strategy. These creatures were intelligent enough to coordinate attacks. If they established dominance here, his own survival chances would plummet. He pulled out his last emergency flare, saved for genuine catastrophes. Disqualified. The young predator's defiance reminded him too much of his own situation. Besides, his mother hadn't raised him to watch suffering without acting. The flare ignited with a harsh crack, bathing the clearing in blinding red light. The adult predators recoiled, their sensitive eyes adapted to the dim forest. Marcus burst from cover, shouting and sprinting across the clearing. He hurled his spear at the nearest adult, the makeshift weapon bouncing harmlessly off its scales, but adding to the confusion. Using the disorientation, he positioned himself between the young predator and its attackers. The flare's harsh light cast wild shadows as he waved it in wide arcs, forcing the adults back step by step. "That's right," he growled. "New rules now." The adults retreated, their hunting coordination broken by this unprecedented interference. They melted into the forest with warning growls, promising future violence. As the flare sputtered out, Marcus turned slowly to face the young predator. It hadn't moved, watching him with eyes that showed far more intelligence than any Earth predator. Blood matted its scales, but its posture remained proud. "Well," Marcus said softly, "I guess we both look pretty strange to each other." The creature made a low sound, more vibration than growl. It lifted its head, examining him with equal curiosity. Neither moved to attack. In that moment, standing in the crystal-strewn clearing under alien twilight, Marcus felt the first spark of something beyond mere survival. This was an opportunity, one that might change everything. The first week after the clearing incident tested every survival skill Marcus possessed. The young predator, whom he'd started calling Rex, couldn't return to its territory while injured. That meant sharing the cave system, a prospect that kept Marcus awake through the long alien nights. "Easy now," Marcus murmured, approaching Rex with a handful of medicinal paste. He'd discovered the purple fungi's healing properties during his own mishaps. Rex watched him with those intelligent eyes, secondary limbs twitching as Marcus drew closer. The wounds from the adult predators were healing, but infection remained a risk. Marcus had spent countless hours observing Rex's behavior. noting how the creature cleaned its injuries with its secondary limbs. This gave him an idea. He demonstrated first, applying the paste to a small cut on his own arm. Rex's head tilted, tracking the movement. Then, moving with deliberate slowness, Marcus extended the paste toward one of Rex's wounds. A low rumble vibrated through the cave. Not quite a growl, but a warning. Marcus held his ground, keeping his breathing steady. Your choice, big guy. Trust me or don't. Rex's primary eyes narrowed, but the creature remained still as Marcus applied the paste. The effect was immediate. The medicinal properties clearly brought relief. Rex's secondary limbs explored the treated area with careful touches. Hours later, Marcus awoke to find a massive shape looming over him. His heart nearly stopped until he recognized Rex's distinctive scale pattern in the crystal's glow. The creature dropped something at his feet, a freshly killed herbivore, smaller than Rex's usual prey. "Bringing me dinner?" Marcus asked, surprised. He'd watched Rex hunt over the past week, marveling at the creature's speed despite its size. But this was different. This was sharing. The meat proved surprisingly edible once cooked over Marcus's makeshift fire. Rex watched the cooking process with fascination, especially when the flames sparked and crackled. As Marcus ate, he found himself talking, filling the cave with stories of Earth and his life before exile. "The Vraxians thought this place would kill me," he told Rex, who had settled nearby. "Didn't count on me making a friend." Days became weeks. Rex's wounds healed completely, but the creature chose to stay. They developed a routine, hunting in the early hours, avoiding the acid rains, sharing the spoils. Marcus learned to read Rex's body language, the subtle shifts in posture that conveyed meaning clearer than words. The breakthrough came during a hunt. Marcus spotted signs of a large herbivore herd moving through the valley. He'd learned their patterns, knowing they would pass through a narrow ravine. Using hand signals he'd developed, he conveyed his plan to Rex. To his amazement, Rex understood. The creature circled wide, while Marcus drove the herd with strategic noise. When the prey burst into the ravine, Rex struck from above with perfect timing. It was their first coordinated hunt, a merger of human strategy and natural power. That evening, as they shared the kill, Marcus noticed movement in the forests beyond their territory. The adult predators had returned, watching from the shadows. But they kept their distance now. The sight of a human and one of their own kind working together had changed the equation. High above, beyond the perpetual clouds, Marcus knew the Vraxian monitors were watching too. Let them watch. Let them see what happened when they underestimated not just humanity's will to survive, but their ability to forge connections across the impossible. Rex's low rumble drew his attention back to their meal. The creature had pushed the choicest cut toward him, a gesture that went beyond mere survival. This was partnership, trust, maybe even friendship. "Thanks, partner," Marcus said quietly. "We're rewriting their rules, aren't we?" Rex's answering growl held what Marcus could have sworn was satisfaction. Together, they had turned exile into opportunity. The real question was, what would they do with it? The hunt had taken them farther than usual. Marcus tracked Rex's movement through the dense undergrowth, noting how the creature's behavior had changed over the past hour. The usual fluid grace had given way to cautious steps and frequent pauses. "What's got you spooked, partner?" Marcus whispered, adjusting his grip on his spear. After 2 months of hunting together, he'd learned to trust Rex's instincts. The forest ahead thinned into an unnatural clearing. Crystal formations rose in geometric patterns too precise to be natural. Silvery metal glinted beneath centuries of vegetation, forming archways and corridors half swallowed by the jungle. "Well, that's definitely not normal," Marcus breathed, studying the ruins. Rex prowled the perimeter, secondary limbs brushing aside vines to reveal more of the structure. The creature's behavior suggested familiarity. It had been here before. Marcus approached the nearest archway, where faint lights still pulsed beneath layers of growth. His diplomatic training included 10 archaeology basics, enough to recognize advanced technology when he saw it. The metal surface bore elaborate patterns that reminded him of circuit boards. Rex's warning growl stopped him short. The creature used its primary limbs to clear away thick vines, revealing a dark opening. Inside, cool air carried the scent of preserved metal and active power systems. "You're right," Marcus agreed, fashioning a torch from bioluminescent fungi. No rushing in blind. The entrance corridor opened into a vast chamber. Marcus's torchlight reflected off walls covered in holographic panels, most dark with age, but some still flickering with life. The architecture felt oddly familiar. Corridors sized for beings close to human scale, workstations arranged with familiar ergonomics. These weren't built by the Vraxians, he realized. The proportions were all wrong for their physiology. A still-functioning console caught his eye. The interface was alien, but the layout followed logical patterns he recognized from human design principles. Rex moved with surprising gentleness through the chamber, avoiding the more fragile equipment. The creature's secondary limbs traced patterns on some of the walls, activating ancient systems. Holographic displays sputtered to life, filling the air with ghostly images. Marcus's breath caught. The displays showed beings walking on two legs, building cities that reached for the stars. Their technology progressed along paths eerily similar to humanity's own development. But interspersed with these images were others, scenes of destruction, of ships he recognized as Vraxian design laying waste to flourishing worlds. "They're doing it systematically," he whispered, piecing it together. "Any species that develops along certain lines, that shows potential to reach the stars independently." His hands clenched as he watched the ancient civilization fall. A larger hologram activated, showing star maps and migration patterns. The ancient species had spread across multiple systems before their fall. One particular path caught his eye, a trajectory that led straight toward Earth's sector of space. "We're their descendants," he breathed. "Or at least we followed the same evolutionary path. That's why the Vraxians want us gone. We're not just another species to them. We're proof that their type of evolution isn't the only valid path." Rex moved closer, watching the holograms with clear recognition. The creature's species must have evolved on this world after the ancients fell, perhaps even influenced by leftover technology and structures. Marcus's mind raced with implications. The Vraxians hadn't exiled him to a random death world. They'd sent him to the very place that could expose their greatest secret. Their first mistake was letting him live. Their second was failing to realize that life finds a way to survive, to adapt, to rise from the ashes of fallen civilizations. "Time to change the game," he told Rex, studying the still-functioning technology around them. "Think you're up for saving not just one species, but maybe every species they've marked for elimination." Rex's answering roar echoed through the ancient halls like a declaration of war. The ancient facility hummed with renewed energy as Marcus worked to restore its systems. 2 weeks had passed since their discovery, and each day revealed new secrets. He sat cross-legged before a holographic interface, Rex lounging nearby as guardian and companion. "Look at this," Marcus said, manipulating the controls with practiced ease. The interface responded to gesture and touch, another similarity to human design philosophy. They left everything. Research data, technological blueprints, even cultural records. Rex's secondary limbs tapped a rhythmic pattern on the metal floor, a sign of attention Marcus had learned to recognize. The creature had grown more expressive as their partnership deepened, showing an understanding that went beyond mere animal intelligence. The facility's defensive systems still functioned, keeping the more dangerous wildlife at bay. Marcus had converted one chamber into a living space, using salvage technology to create basic amenities. The landing pod's remnants, carefully harvested from their old cave, provided raw materials for his projects. "The inspection vessel will come soon," Marcus told Rex, pulling up orbital calculations. "They'll expect to find bones, if anything. Instead, we'll give them something that will shake the council to its core." His fingers danced across the interface, bringing up schematics for a communications array. The ancients had built redundancy into everything. Backup systems, emergency protocols, all waiting for someone to reactivate them. The Vraxians had never found this facility, too focused on destroying surface settlements to look deeper. Rex suddenly tensed, secondary limbs spreading in an alert posture. Moments later, the facility's sensors registered movement outside. A pack of predators, drawn by the energy emissions. Marcus smiled, remembering a time when such a threat would have meant hiding or running. "Want to test the new sonic deterrent?" he asked Rex. The creature's eager growl was answer enough. They moved to the entrance in perfect sync, their months of hunting together evident in every coordinated step. Marcus activated the device, salvaged ancient technology modified with his engineering knowledge. A focused wave of sound drove the predators back, their hunting formation scattered by frequencies tuned to their sensitive hearing. "Perfect," Marcus noted, marking adjustments in his makeshift logbook. Every test brought them closer to their goal. The facility's database had revealed the ancient species' greatest achievement: methods of communicating with other forms of life, bridging gaps between different types of intelligence. He turned to Rex, whose scales now gleamed with health and pride. "Ready to make history, partner." The creature dipped its head in what had become their signal for agreement. Together, they returned to the central chamber, where Marcus had assembled his masterpiece, a transmitter that would reach not just the inspection vessel, but the council itself. The evidence was damning. Records of systematic extinction, proof of alternative evolutionary paths, documentation of thriving civilizations erased by Vraxian aggression. But data alone wouldn't be enough. They needed to show that different species could work together, could achieve things impossible alone. Marcus checked the facility's time display. A week remained until the inspection vessel's scheduled arrival. His hand rested on Rex's scales, feeling the creature's steady breathing. They had transformed exile into opportunity, fear into partnership. "They thought this world would break us," he said softly. "Instead, it showed us the truth. Life finds a way, not just to survive, but to thrive, to connect, to grow." Rex's rumble of agreement resonated through the ancient halls. Outside, Nexus 6's eternal twilight cast shadows through crystal formations, while inside, technology older than human civilization hummed with renewed purpose. The countdown to their moment had begun. When the inspection vessel arrived, they would find more than survival. They would find revolution. The inspection vessel pierced Nexus 6's atmosphere in a blaze of heat, following the same trajectory that had brought Marcus to this world. He watched its descent from the facility's restored sensor array. Rex by his side, both ready for the moment they'd planned for weeks. "Right on schedule," Marcus murmured, checking the Modify communicator. The ancient technology hummed with power, ready to broadcast their message across all council frequencies. "Let's give them a proper welcome." The vessel landed 3 kilometers from the facility, exactly where Marcus had led them through carefully placed signal beacons. Rex's secondary limbs twitched with anticipation. They'd rehearsed this dozens of times. Through the facility's cameras, Marcus watched the inspection team emerge. 2 council security officers and a medical examiner, all wearing environmental suits. Their movements showed their nervousness. No one survived Nexus 6 this long. "Inspection team." Marcus's voice crackled through their comm systems. "Welcome to Nexus 6. Request immediate council investigation. Proceed to the marked coordinates. Warning: local wildlife is active. Stay alert." He watched their reactions through the camera feed. The medical examiner nearly dropped her equipment. One security officer drew his weapon, while the other frantically checked readings on a portable scanner. "Impossible." The medical examiner's voice came through. "The exile's vital signs were lost months ago." Marcus smiled. The Vraxians' monitoring systems showed what they expected to see. "Please proceed to the coordinates. Time is critical." A distant roar made the inspection team freeze. Marcus checked the perimeter sensors. A hunting pack had picked up their scent. Not part of the plan, but perhaps an opportunity. "Rex," he said softly, "showtime." The creature moved with fluid grace, understanding the stakes. They'd spent months perfecting their coordination, and now it would all pay off. The hunting pack emerged from the forest just as the inspection team reached the halfway point. 6 massive predators, moving with lethal purpose. The team's weapons would be useless against such numbers. Marcus's voice cut through their panic. "Hold position. Do not run." Rex burst from the underbrush between the team and the hunters. The creature's scales caught the twilight, making it seem to glow. The hunting pack hesitated, recognizing one of their own kind, but confused by its behavior. "Now, partner," Marcus commanded, emerging from the facility's entrance. Rex responded instantly to his hand signals, herding the inspection team toward safety while maintaining a defensive position. The lead hunter charge. Rex met the attack with practiced skill, using techniques developed through months of hunting with Marcus. The combination of natural strength and tactical positioning scattered the pack. Inside, Marcus ordered the stunned inspection team. Questions later, they stumbled into the facility, where active holographic displays showed clear evidence of the Vraxian conspiracy. Rex backed in last, taking a guard position at the entrance. The medical examiner found her voice first. You control that creature." "Wrong word," Marcus replied, patting Rex's scales. "We work together. Partners, just like the ancient species that once lived here worked with others. Before the Vraxians decided their way was the only way." He activated the main display, showing the full scope of their discovery. "The Vraxians didn't exile me to a random death world. They sent me to the one place that could expose their greatest crime and their greatest fear." The security officers stared at Rex, who had settled into a relaxed but alert pose beside Marcus. The creature's intelligence was unmistakable, its bond with the human undeniable. "Send your report to the council," Marcus said. "Tell them humanity doesn't just survive. We connect. We adapt. We turn enemies into allies and isolation into strength. And then tell them I'm coming back, with proof that will change everything." Rex's confident rumble echoed through the ancient halls, a sound of triumph that needed no translation. The council chamber fell silent as Marcus entered, Rex moving with quiet grace beside him. The massive doors, designed to accommodate all member species, barely cleared the creature's height. Diplomatic representatives from 100 worlds watched in stunned fascination as human and beast took their position at the center of the chamber. Ambassador Kexry's scales had lost their luster, his primary eyes fixed on the datapad containing the inspection team's report. The Vraxian delegation sat rigid with tension, their carefully constructed world order crumbling before them. "Representatives of the Galactic Council," Marcus began, his voice carrying the strength forged in Nexus 6's endless twilight. 3 months ago, I stood in this chamber accused of espionage. Today, I return with evidence of real crimes and hope for a better future." Rex's secondary limbs moved in practiced patterns, activating the holographic systems they'd brought from the ancient facility. The chamber filled with images, worlds destroyed, civilizations erased, all to maintain one species' definition of proper evolution. "The Vraxian delegation calls this preservation of order," Marcus continued. "They claim their evolutionary path is the only valid one, but life itself proves them wrong. On Nexus 6, I found more than survival. I found proof that different species can connect, grow, and achieve things impossible alone." He gestured to Rex, who demonstrated their hunting signals with fluid precision. The chamber murmured as the creature's intelligence became undeniable. Several younger representatives leaned forward, their own species' prejudices wavering in the face of such evidence. "The ancient species who built those ruins didn't seek to dominate," Marcus explained. "They sought to connect, to bridge gaps between different forms of intelligence. Their research survived, waiting for someone to continue their work, not just for justice, but for the future of all spacefaring species." Kexry rose, his voice sharp. You would destroy millennia of stability for mere sentiment. No, Marcus replied calmly. I would build something stronger than stability through fear. Rex's species evolved after the ancients fell, shaped by the remnants of their technology. They proved that multiple paths of evolution can produce incredible results. The medical examiner, who had been part of the inspection team, stepped forward. I've reviewed the biological data. The potential for cross-species cooperation is remarkable. Think of the advances we could make in medicine, in technology, in exploration. Support grew among the council members. Even some of the Vraxian delegation showed signs of interest, their rigid beliefs yielding to new possibilities. I move for an immediate vote, called the Centaurian Representative's Successor, Earth's admission to the Council, and the establishment of a new committee for interspecies cooperation. The motion passed with overwhelming support. Marcus watched the proceedings with quiet satisfaction, one hand resting on Rex's scales. They had done more than survive. They had changed the very foundations of galactic society. Later, in the newly established Earth Embassy, Marcus stood before a window overlooking the vast station. Rex lounged nearby, watching ships come and go with intelligent curiosity. The creature would be the first of many non-humanoid embassy members, opening doors for species previously dismissed as mere animals. They thought exile would silence us, Marcus told his partner. Instead, it gave us a voice for those who had been silenced before. Research teams were already heading to Nexus 6, eager to study both the ancient ruins and Rex's species. The Council had designated the planet a protected world, its deadly environment now serving as a guardian for its secrets rather than a prison. Rex's rumble of contentment echoed through the embassy. Outside, ships from a dozen worlds docked at the station, their crews including species that would once have been rejected. Change was coming to the galaxy, not through force or fear, but through connection and understanding. Ready for our next adventure? Marcus asked, reviewing requests for their help in building bridges between species. Rex's eager response needed no translation. They had survived exile, exposed conspiracy, and changed the galaxy. But their greatest achievement was simpler. They had proved that in the vast darkness of space, the strongest force wasn't evolution or power, but the ability to reach across the void and form bonds that transcended all barriers.